Today, we're going to be going over 3 routes that DBs cannot stop and cannot guard. So this first one is going to be a slant route using a hezzy skip move with a jab attached to it. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to break it down and how you guys can use this whenever you have to run a slant route versus a DB who is in this head-up press coverage look, okay? So what he does here off the ball is he does this kick step, little skip, then puts the jab on and gets some separation on this slant. So let's talk about it, right? So how many times have you seen wide receivers do this? This is a release that like Davante Adams has perfected, Justin Jefferson has perfected. You see so many top route runners doing this type of release where they come off the ball, they take a kick step with their back foot in behind their front foot, right? The reason why they do that is just kind of a way to generate some explosion, generate some momentum, and then they take this skip step with their front foot. They essentially hop, and in this case, the front foot is the right foot, right? So he kicks behind the front foot, hops with the right foot. Now, that little skip right there, DBs are, like, I guess you could say pretty threatened by that type of skip because you could do a lot of things off of that skip. But like what guys like Davante Adams have made their money on, Justin Jefferson, is they will do that skip. DB hesitates. He sits to the inside because they might be expecting some type of slant. And then what you do is you take off and go run the fade. So a lot of DBs, when they see that skip, are very anxious and they want to overreact to it. So when you have to run a slant route, you could use that kind of like designed or built in to your ultimate release. So like if you had to run like a post route, I would say this release is more based off of like a reaction on the DB. You do this kick step behind your back foot, you kick, and then you take this little skip step, and then if that DB jumps to the outside, you put the brakes on, take the inside release, run your post. If he sits to the inside, you release to the outside, you work to stack, and then you run your post. But if you have a designed slant, you could throw a little jab off the move, and you're pairing your releases together. You could just do that skip and go. You could do the skip and then put the brakes on, and then you could do a skip and a jab. And that's why it's so hard to guard this on a slant, you guys. So what he does here, again, like I said, he skips, brakes on, and he throws the cut. His hips, his shoulders all go with that jab step and get that DB to jump fully turned around because he's expecting that skip and go release, and you see the amount of separation he's able to get. Guys, if you can master that skip release and you guys can do a skip and go, skip, react, take the inside release, or skip and throw a move off of it. Now let's get real creative with it. What else you could do is you could do that skip, you go 1 and then throw a second step back inside and go 2 and then go maybe run a fade. So there's so many options off of that skip. So I highly recommend you guys work that into your routes because it's a very, very tough move to guard. Great route here from Myers, and obviously a great job getting upfield after the catch. Now, the next route I want to talk about here is going to be a red zone route, and it's going to be a red zone comeback. But there's a move at the top of the route that I think every wide receiver needs to get down and needs to work on, especially when we were in the red zone. And that's what we're going to talk about, why it's important we use this in the red zone. Now, before we go over this, fellas, if you are a quarterback or a wide receiver, because I know a lot of wide receivers are watching this video, we're going to be traveling out to 15 different locations this offseason for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So guys, check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested, you would like to sign up to train with myself and my staff. They're 2-day-long camps. We'll be coming out to San Francisco, California first. That camp is completely sold out. Then we'll be heading out to Orlando. That camp literally, guys, has like 2 spots remaining. They'll be coming out to Phoenix, Charlotte, Austin. Those 3 camps have like 5 spots. Each one individually has about 5 spots left. So guys, make sure you take advantage of that. Then we'll be coming out to Vegas, Seattle, Chicago, Newark, Birmingham, Houston, Boston, Columbus, Boise, and Los Angeles. So guys, want some more information, want to sign up to train with us, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you at one of our camps. We can teach you all about the receiver position, quarterback position, and help you get better. So guys, very first link in that description below. Let's get back to this video. So now let's talk about this red zone comeback. So the move in question here, or the move in reference, is going to be a peek back move. Now, why is it important that we do this peek back move in the red zone? So think about a comeback route, right? So guys, let's say we're on the 50-yard line, middle of the field, and a wide receiver has to run a 15 back to 12. So 15 is the top of the break, 12 is where you're running to, right? 15 back to 12 comeback. All the way up till 15, what we're trying to make this DB think is we're trying to make him think that we are running a 9. We're trying to make him think we're running a fade. So how we do that is we run with good speed because, again, if you're jogging, like the DB's not going to believe you're running deep, we got to run with the same stride length. So like off the snap of the ball all the way till 15, there should be no change in your strides because that's going to make him think we're going vertical. And then there should be no change in your body language. Your body language, your head should be down. You should have a slight forward lean with your body because that's how you would run a fade. Everything's a fade until it's not a fade, right? So you have that all the way up till 15. Now, when you get to 15, that's when you put the brakes on and go. And you get separation by selling it with, again, speed, stride, body language. Red zone, that ain't going to work because this dude ain't threatened by a deep fade. What he's threatened by is a goal line fade. So that's what we got to make our comebacks look like in the red zone. So what St. Brown does here is he gives a little move to the inside and he accelerates upfield, and the first thing that snaps back are his eyes. Because when we have to run a fade route, you guys, that's when I look for the ball, especially when it's short field. I'm not trying to separate. I'm not trying to take him over the top. I'm still selling fade, but I'm doing it in a more like manipulative way based on the situation. So you close the space with them. You got to run it exactly how you'd run a fade. You're not just going to take off and go run to the back pylon when you run a goal line fade. You have to close the space with him, burst to the outside, peek back to the inside, and then we put the brakes on. So it's the peek back. Or like if you're running goal line fade, you close the space, give him a move inside, and then we work outside, right? But when we do that, we look back for the ball. So that's why we got to make our comeback look the exact same. So if you can add this comeback move, you guys, if you can add this comeback move with that peek back when you're in the red zone, that's very, very tough for a DB to guard because they are always threatened by that head top jump ball catch, okay? So, fellas, we're going to go ahead and play this full speed one more time, and then we'll get into the next move. That's a great job by St. Brown peeking back and then getting in and out. Now, let's talk about this next route. This is going to be from Travis Kelce, and he's going to be running a whip route here, okay? So, whip route is unguardable, fellas. DBs can't stop it. Linebackers, safeties can't stop it if you know how to sell this route correctly. And the way to sell any type of double move, obviously you got to have great speed on the first break. Some people will say like your eyes play a big role. But guys, when we're facing a disciplined DB, I hate to break it to you, but he's not watching my feet. He's not watching my eyes. He is watching my body language. More specifically, he is watching my hips. So that is what we have to sell the double move with. We have to, when we cross his face, we have to commit his hips. We have to commit his shoulder, or we have to commit our hips. We got to commit our shoulders because that's what gets them to bite. And Kelce is one of the best at doing this. Like the break isn't even the cleanest. He's obviously not the fastest guy because he's a tight end and because of his size, but he's still able to get tons of separation on this whip route consistently because he can sell it with his upper half. So let's break this down. So he comes off the ball, gives a move, breaks to the inside, hips, shoulders. His eyes aren't even looking back at the quarterback. But this is what gets that DB to be greedy. This is what gets him to crash down because when those hips and those shoulders are there, and when you break to the whip, there is not a change in speed. There's no way for a DB to prepare. He eventually has to crash. He eventually has to make that decision. So a mistake that wide receivers will make is that like they anticipate the whip too quick. Like their hip and their shoulder will already be starting to turn before they put the brakes on with their feet and dropping their hips. We can't do that, you guys. We have to make sure that my hips and my shoulders are fully committed, but when I break to that slant, there is not a change in your speed. Because cutting on a whip route, guys, and like being able to drop your weight, being able to drive out, get out in the least amount of steps, not an easy task. So a lot of receivers, especially who aren't comfortable with the break, they'll cut, but then this point right here, they start to slow their speed way down. And it's no different than that comeback example we were talking about with St. Brown. What's going to get a DB to commit is that same speed. So I want the same speed as how I'd run my drag, how I'd run my slant. And that's what gets that DB to crash down, but that's what ultimately gets us space. So guys, if you could do that on your double moves, I'm talking like a slant and go, I'm talking a post corner. If that first move, you commit your upper half, hips and shoulders, not even necessarily your eyes. Your eyes can be important, don't get me wrong, especially on the deeper routes. But your hips and your shoulders, and don't change that speed or stride, that will get you a ton of separation, and it'll be very, very tough to guard that type of route.